Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we're making a part two to the modern 30 minutes level. I'll play it so you can get a little refresher to your mind. It was like the last video, I think, or like 2 videos ago. I made it yesterday. That's the level. But today we're making a part two, and today our inspiration is going to be Vortrax's level called Night Show, and I will show you what that is. Because I'm getting like lots of inspirations for these levels, and so I want to show you what I'm getting my inspiration of, so you know I'm not copying. So this is it. But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much the level, and then there's other stuff in it, but we don't have time for that. We gotta get into the video, you know? So, let me get my 30-minute timer up, or we'll do 30 or 45 since it didn't exactly work out the best yesterday, just having 30. And my goal is to hopefully, have this level get rated when it comes out, or something. Well, when like the full version comes out. Alright, ready? 3, 2, 1, and start. Alright, so that started. Time to start on the next part. That rhymed. Well, we're definitely changing the background color right here, since it is going to be a new part. And we'll change it to very dark blue, almost full black. And we can maybe take some inspiration from Viking Arena or something. So this part is gonna be like kind of drawn or something, I guess. And so we'll just take all that, and we're gonna wait, that was only one color I used for all of that? Nice. Now we're gonna make this yellow. Honestly, that's too big, so we're just gonna have to hand make it. It will take more time, I guess, but it's gonna be worth it in the end, guys, trust me. Nice. That's looking pretty good. All right, that's our first structure. Okay, this needs to be middle one. Well, yeah, I just realized that like changes all that stuff. See, it's like this, then it turns darker. Boom, boom. That's really cool, since we did that all on background color. Anyway, hitbox time. Nice. I think we should probably switch game modes now. That was a big cube section. Nice. It's looking pretty nice. We're also gonna preview that so we can see where we're going. And now we need to actually make some stars. Oh my gosh, that was horrible. It's not very good looking. Holy cow. I need to actually like remember how to make a star. There we go. That's a lot better than whatever the heck those other things were. It's still looking a little too not good, so after all that we're still gonna use this, I guess. And we have to make it a little wonky looking so that it's not perfect. And there was a lot of effort into it. And we will need to make a starry kind of background. But I do have a particle trigger, so that should not be too difficult. Sorry, I'm not talking. I'm just locked in on making a good star now. Alright, time for hitboxes. This is looking like a fixed hitbox, but I'm just, trying to do this. Alright, nice. Let's see the hitbox. It's good enough. Let's see. This is looking a little spammy, but it'll get there. Let's make sure it's not too hard. Nice, it's not too bad at all. I think that'll be good enough, like, for the duration of the wave. Alright, nice. Now we just have to copy and paste these objects around. But I don't really want that there because it's a little difficult with that one. That's looking pretty good. Now we could just transition into some ship with the same gameplay. And then we're gonna add some D blocks. Oops. Alright, nice. That looks pretty good. That's actually looking really good. And we actually have 13 seconds of gameplay, which is not the best, but we're still gonna do probably some more videos on this, and so it will do better. It will definitely do better as it goes along. So now, now we actually just should take all of this and then just copy and paste it. Because, it's looking pretty good. I keep saying, that's probably annoying. I'm so sorry. And now we're gonna take this, copy, paste, and move them around. Now, oh, there's still two little things missing, I guess. That's okay, we can fix it. And then it'll just go into some more Wait, why do I have D blocks? It's fine. We'll just keep it there. Just because. That's probably good for this part. How long do we have left on the clock? 33 minutes. Wow, I guess we could still, keep on going then for a while. I thought that time was gonna get short, but I forgot we actually got 45 minutes. Let's play this really quick just to see. But I think we definitely should add our starry background. Nice, that's looking good. We just need to change the ground and probably even make some pulses. We're gonna take this pulse trigger. We're gonna give these one, two. Wait, we do need to, make these black blendings. And then we're gonna pulse number 3. You know, that's looking pretty good. Ta-da, da-da, da-da. Very nice, that was looking really good. Let's just see those pulses one more time. Nice. So now, let's continue on to the next part, I think, because, you know, that's probably the best idea. Or, you know, let's make some gameplay first instead of rushing the deco again. You know, this is still part of the other thing, so of the, you know what I'm saying. You know, we could do some starry things. I don't know. You know, that's like a kind of cool structure, I guess. You know, I think this is actually some time for robot gameplay because we have not had any of that yet. You know? You know, that's not the best, but it'll work. You know, that is actually pretty cool. So now we have 22 seconds of gameplay. This is almost a I mean, not medium size level, you know? Which is pretty good. Hi. I'm making a video right now. That's looking pretty good, you think? I think that's probably good for that. Now we're just gonna get to decorating because we only have 25 minutes left on the clock, and that should give us enough time. That's actually looking pretty good. Let's just play it from zero really quick, you know? How do I die there? Nice. That's looking pretty good. So now let's delete that start position and get to work, you know? I do think we should have some stars. This is looking pretty good. I would do follow player, but that can get annoying sometimes. So I'm not. Nice. Now we have some stars in this area. Now it's time to get back to work. This is gonna be kind of tricky. I think we should go for a different, like, style. Like, still nighttime style, but, like, different. I'm just not sure different how. Maybe like a cavern? No, I don't know. I really don't know to do. We could do like mountain or something. I'll make a moon. Doesn't have to be too big. Just a good size. And then kind of gray. You know, 80 is pretty good. I'm gonna warp that a little. And that's looking pretty good so far. Now we just need to add some more texture. And I know, good thing, I know the perfect block for that. All we need, is to go over here grab one of these. Wait, what did the glow on? B1Z9, B1Z9. And then this is T1Z9. What? Whatever. Now, literally, you can make like snow. You can make stone. You could make so many good things out of this texture block, whatever you want to call it. So that is exactly why I'm using it. No, it looks pretty good. But I think I'll make that too. You know, here now. Here. Alright, nice. That looks really good, you know. Now we have to give it a group. 4. You know, we have to put a start pause though. Here we go. We'll just put -1 for now, you know. You know, that's looking pretty good. Nice, you know, I think we're good on that now. It's actually time to do some deco now. You know. I think what I want to do is like a cavern. Oh, this is stressful, dude. How much time we have left? 18 minutes. You know, what did I do for that? I'm gonna do like stars, I think. You know, it looks pretty cool, I think. Oh, shoot. You know, I really don't know if this looks good. I'm so stressed out because of this stupid thing. You know, that could work. Well, I actually have a good idea now. I'm genius. You know, that actually is gonna work. Alright, give this group ID 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, and 9. This is gonna be group heavy, especially to do all these blocks, you know, but it's gonna be worth it. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I believe, right? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, you know, this is actually gonna work. 5, you know, what color? Five, 6. You know, that's actually working. Now 9. This is actually gonna work. Holy cow. Somehow just, that's actually really good. That's really good. That's actually gonna work. Holy cow, holy cow. I'm a genius, bro. I'm just like that. Right, nice. This is actually working. Holy cow, it's working. 10, 11, 12, and 13. This is actually work. This is actually gonna work. 10, 11, wait. 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, yeah, it's gonna work. 10, what color? 10, 11, 12, 13. This might go. It's actually working. It's actually working. Okay, 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 okay. Lock it, lock it. How much longer on the clock? 12 minutes. That's actually gonna be enough time, I think. Nice. Hopefully this video is not too long since this is like a 45-minute timer. Sorry that it's a little long, but hopefully you guys all enjoy, because that's why I am making it. Nice. All right, now we have to get these blocks. But we got it because we're good at this. All right, nice. That's pretty good. I think I'll just trace tiny objects inside of it. Yeah, like that. Why does it look like a dog or something, or like a chicken? You know? Maybe this I could warp. I guess it works. 14, 15, 16. That's pretty cool. We do have to actually delete this. Nice. That's actually looking good. That's actually looking good. Holy cow. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Oh my goodness, yo, no way. Nice. That's good. 17, 18, 19, 20. That's like the last object pretty much we need to do. Oops. That's actually looking good. What group was that? 20. Well, I forgot to do that. That's why. That's looking actually really good now. That's looking good. We're not gonna pulse that. Then here, We'll just do like a little line indicating, it's like a little slope. And then we'll just make some, you know, scary stuff. That's kind of funny looking. I'll keep it. I think we actually just finished. Oh my gosh. And that's finished. And now for the final showcase, of the level. The entire level. Let's do it. Okay, don't die there. Trying to actually showcase, not die. That's actually really good. I would say I'm pretty proud of that. I'm gonna name the level. Oops. I'm gonna name the level Styles Challenge. And we are going to upload that. And of course, oh wow, 3 minutes on the clock. But anyway, that's is the video, and I hope you enjoyed. I really do. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.